called the coach years later and asked if he had heard about Randall Woodfield being the I-5 killer, he said, quote, "That can't be. Probably the wrong Randall Woodfield." End quote.
Another teammate who didn't want to say his name said, quote, "He was a little strange, maybe stranger than we thought. You just had a bad feeling about this guy, like there was something underneath the mask."
Yeah, it seemed like some people really understood who he was, just some mysterious guy, some jackal. And he fooled a lot of people, though, thinking that he was a gentleman.
Randy was even in a small Bible study group in college and came across as spiritual to some people. At the same time, he was frequenting topless clubs. He would date strippers. He had parties and lots of different girlfriends. So maybe like he was trying to have this squeaky clean image for his family, or he had these intrusive thoughts that he was trying to control, and maybe that's why he went to Bible study. But who knows? In typical Randall fashion, he was arrested many times in college also for indecent exposure. 4 times in college. In college, he allegedly ransacked an ex-girlfriend's home, but he was found not guilty of that in a jury trial because of lack of evidence.
Drafted by the NFL. Randall was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in 1974. He was the 428th pick in the NFL draft in the 17th round.
What does that even mean?
It means at that point you're sort of taking chances on people you're not sure are going to actually make an impact. If you're, usually the first round is where they believe the top performers are going to be. So, Randall was somewhat fast. He actually wasn't really that fast compared to today's standards, but he was sort of it was a gamble pick.
Oh.
So obviously the Packers did little to no background checks on Randy, or they may have heard rumors about his past and sort of took a gamble on him, as we said.
Even if the Packers had done a background check, they probably still would have picked him up. This is the NFL we are talking about after all. They have a blatant history of brushing things like that under the table.
I'm going to chime in here. This was the 1970s Green Bay Packers, which is one of the most touted champs of all time.
And?
They had a stellar reputation, so they weren't necessarily going to risk that.
Disagree. Hard disagree. Woodfield was offered a 1-year contract to be a, quote, skilled football player for $16,000. On top of that, if he caught 25 passes that year, he would get an extra $2,000. He would get $3,000 if he caught 30.
That's not too bad, actually. $16,000 salary in the early 70s. That's not a bad living for the time. And especially for a 428th round or 428th pick in the draft.
His contract said he had to keep himself in peak physical condition, could not gamble, and he had to wear a coat and necktie in public places.
That's the Green Bay Packers that I was talking about, the classy organization. They made you wear a coat and necktie.
So you're saying if you wear a coat and necktie, you can't be
right.
A rapist?
Exactly.
I like your reasoning.
Ted Bundy
good.
Ted Bundy never wore a necktie, did he?
Randy quit his job as a burger chef and quickly signed the contract with the Green Bay Packers. He also left college 3 semesters off from graduating with his bachelor's degree.
Randall went to a mini camp in Scottsdale, Arizona that April. He spent months staying in shape and working on his football skills. In June, he went to the Packers training camp in Wisconsin, and they listed him as the wide receiver for the team. Woodfield said at the time, quote, "I'm pretty excited. I'm just really thankful for the opportunity," end quote. Some of the guys in the camp got cut pretty early, so Randy was confident he would get to stay on with the Packers. The Packers, though, were not so confident in Randy's abilities. He was cut before the season even began on August 19th, 1974.
Ouch.
Yes.
Wasn't meant to be.
Packers officials would not publicly comment on why Woodfield was let go.
I wonder.
It's pretty obvious that he likely continued to expose himself and got into some extracurricular activities instead of focusing on the mini camp and getting ready for the NFL. Just imagine being cut from a major franchise like the Green Bay Packers. That was definitely a major blow to his ego, and he was totally devastated.
Yeah, I can't imagine something like that. You probably tell everyone, your family, you're going to be part of the Green Bay Packers, and then all of a sudden you're not.
That's a soul crusher, really.
Yeah.
He went from, you said he was flipping burgers, right?
Yeah.
So he was a burger cook who had a shot at an NFL life, and the salary was pretty decent. He had the shot of making it big time, but he was cut.
Randy decides to not return to Oregon, but to do some semi-pro football. He was hoping to get noticed by the Packers again and maybe get picked back up. He was dropped from his semi-pro team after only one season. Though no reason was given publicly, it was heard that there were off-field concerns.
Quote, unquote. That's the off-field concerns. You hear that regularly in the football world.
Meaning his bad behavior was getting noticed and affecting his job. He had more arrests and more than 12 flashing incidents at this time. That's a lot.
You would have thought he would have learned from getting cut from the Packers the first time, and that there'd be no possible way for him to return to the NFL if he kept doing that. He just couldn't help himself.
Woodfield must have known at this time that his football dreams were definitely over and that no other teams were coming to get him. He drove back to the West Coast, and a new part of his life started. Woodfield was very, very close to getting his college degree in physical education, but decided to not go back to school. Instead, he began drifting in his life, job to job, apartment to apartment, girl to girl. He had no purpose anymore, and his anger at life started to come out. Now would be a good time to take a break for a promo, so here it is.
Hi, I'm Jamie, host of Murderific, a true crime podcast that provides a 3D look at gripping murder cases from beginning to end. You'll get to know the victims and perpetrators, how their worlds collided, and what went down during trial. I also share some of my own personal experiences, like the time a stranger came into my bedroom at night. Yeah, that really happened, and I walk you through all the details of that terrifying night. Have you ever wanted to be a fly on the wall during a murder trial? You'll get that opportunity on Murderific, as I share my experience being a jury foreman on a first-degree murder trial. Search Murderific in your favorite podcatcher app, hit subscribe, and start binging. And remember, listening to this podcast doesn't make you a murderer, it just means you're murder-ish.
Start of attacks. In early 1975, a series of attacks on women started. An athletic man with a knife would go up to women, rob the victim, and demand oral sex and then run away. The police set up a sting operation, and a female cop took a leisurely stroll in a park. Randy took the bait and jumped out at her with a knife. March 3rd, 1975, of course he was instantly arrested and charged with robbery. He also had the officers decoy money on him, so that didn't help his cause. He told the police a sob story about how he was trying to be a Christian, but he had some sexual issues and impulse control problems. He also told them about his steroid use, maybe as an excuse for his behavior. He ended up pleading down to second-degree robbery. He spent 4 years in prison, from April 1975 to July 1979. As soon as he got out, he went to his 10-year class reunion, showed off his muscles, and bragged about his time with the Packers. Apparently, the two blows of being let down from the Packers and spending 4 years in prison didn't stop his vain, braggart persona he showed to everyone. He started losing menial jobs. He lost some bartending jobs. His girlfriend started dumping him. Women started telling him no.
Oh boy, you know what that means.
Yes.
It's the start of all problems. Men can't take no.
Some men.
No means no.
He sent one of his naked pictures to Playgirl for consideration. So did I, actually.
Oh, did you?
I didn't hear back for some reason.
I didn't see that issue either.
I didn't hear back. He received a letter back saying, "Congratulations. You have been selected for possible consideration in Playgirl." You have been selected for possible consideration in Playgirl's Guys Next Door feature.
You know, I think I looked at Playgirl a couple times when I was really young.
I'm sure you did.
Maybe more than once or twice.
I think maybe I did. Okay. 7,000 issues. Backlog.
Don't go in the attic. Also. So now the crime wave really begins because women were telling him no and he couldn't handle it.
We've seen that story play out a million times and we've covered a bunch of cases like that.
Yep. I'm going to give a disclaimer here. I know there's one at the beginning of the show, but the content from this point on is going to be very brutal and triggering and will speak about rape. So be warned. Also,
from time to time, we say the F word, and that apparently ticks some people off.
Triggered.
So there will be possibly some foul language as well.
Fuck. On October 9th, 1980, Cherry Ayers, who was an X-ray tech and a former classmate of Randy's, was raped and murdered in her apartment in downtown Portland, Oregon. She had been bludgeoned and stabbed multiple times in her neck. She was found on October 11th by her fiancé. Sherry and Randy had known each other since second grade, and during Randy's 4 years in prison, they had exchanged letters. They actually had reconnected during that high school reunion. Woodfield was immediately thought of as a suspect because he had just gotten out of prison, and Sherry's family also gave Randy's name to the police. Randy was questioned. He did refuse to take the polygraph test, and the officers found his answers evasive and deceptive. A blood test did not link Woodfield to the crime, and also his blood type did not match the semen found inside Sherry. Blood obtained from the semen sample indicated a blood type of O, and Woodfield was a B negative. This, of course, happened before DNA testing became more precise, and Randall was let go, as we know, to continue on his crime spree. The same thing happened with the Russian serial killer case, Andrei Chikatilo, where his semen was found on 6 victims, and it was found to be type AB, but Chikatilo's blood was type A, so he was released as well and killed many more victims. But back then, testing was not as advanced as it is now, and sometimes blood and semen come back as different types when tested, and we did not have that understanding of DNA in the early 80s.
1 month later, on November 27, 1980, Thanksgiving, the next victim was Darcy Renee Fix. She was 22 years old, and again, Woodfield knew this victim. He's getting pretty,
brazen.
Yeah, brazen, that's the great word, yeah. Woodfield showed up at Darcy's house to rape her. They knew each other because she had dated one of Randy's close friends in college. There was a man named Douglas Keith Altig, age 24, at Darcy's home, so everything didn't go according to Randy's plan. He shot them both to death, execution style, with the victim's .32 caliber revolver, which Randy decided to take with him.
So he used Darcy's own gun to kill her.
He ad-libbed that one. He was questioned again because he knew the victim, but again, he was let go. There was no concrete evidence to hold him in custody.
This guy's just going around killing his friends.
Yeah, it's not the best sample to start killing people from. Woodfield's crime started coming fast and furious, rapidly accelerating. December 9th, 1980, a man wearing a hoodie, a fake beard, and a Band-Aid or athletic tape on his nose robbed a gas station in Vancouver, Washington. He had a gun on him. Later it was found that Randall thought the tape on his nose would prevent him from being picked out of a lineup.
Oh, Randall, you're so smart.
He's so clever, using football tape so the police will never track it down to a football player.
4 nights after that, on December 13th, he robbed an ice cream store.
Which is something I would totally do.
You would do that. What flavor would you steal?
Probably cookies and cream.
And you wouldn't even take the money.
No. Who's going to go through all that for $20 in the register when you get a whole gallon of cookies and cream? I would get you some pistachio something.
Thank you. 1 night later, a bearded man robbed a drive-in restaurant in Albany, Oregon. December 21st, which was 1 week later, an athletic, bearded man with athletic tape on his nose forced a 25-year-old waitress, who is unnamed, into a restroom and forced her to masturbate him with a gun pointed at her. She survived. Oh man, that is rough. On January 8th, 1981, he held up a gas station, one that he had robbed before. This guy gave no fucks, but he forced the female clerk to show her breasts to him after he took the money from the cash register. He's just robbing and raping. January 11th, he robbed a market. January 12th, 1981, he shot and wounded a woman, a grocery clerk, in a store in Oregon. Her name was Susie Bennett, and she was 20, and she survived. Police started calling this criminal the I-5 Bandit. Every crime happened within 2 miles of an interstate exit. Police thought these crimes were all the work of one man. They didn't know the criminal drove a gold Volkswagen Bug up and down Interstate 5. They also didn't know that every time Randall got turned down for a date or rejected from anyone, he would go to find a new victim, sometimes within minutes.
Can we talk about the number of killers who drove Volkswagen Bugs?
I only know 2, but maybe there's more. Maybe it's just a popular car.
Yeah, it was, actually. It wasn't that common. January 14th, 1981, a man broke into a house who looked like the I-5 Bandit and sexually assaulted 2 sisters, aged 8 and 10 years old.
Death.
8 and 10. I mean, he liked
Kill
younger
him.
women, but we didn't know he was a pedophile.
I just think he wanted to hurt women. January 18th, 1981, in Oregon, a man wearing jeans and a leather jacket, matching the I-5 Bandit description, goes into an office building at night where Sherry Hull, 21, and Lisa Garcia, 20, who were cleaning the building at the time, were working. He rapes both of the women and shoots them both in the back of the head, and then he calmly walked away. 20-year-old Lisa Garcia survived, though, luckily, and she called the police herself. Apparently, police saw a man matching the description a mile away, and they drove right by him because they didn't think the perp could have run so far so fast. That's pretty scary. They just saw this guy, and he matched the description, but they were like, oh, he's so far away, there's no way it's the same guy. And it probably was him. This survivor would eventually help bring Randy down, because she is a badass bitch. That's why. She's not a victim, she's a survivor.
By the end of January 1981, he had committed robberies, sexual assaults, and murders in Vancouver, Olympia, Bellevue, Washington. Crimes continue. February 3rd, 1981, Donna Eckert, 37, and her 14-year-old daughter, named Janelle Jarvis, were found dead in their house at Mountain Gate, California. Each had been shot several times in the head. The forensic test showed the 14-year-old girl had been sodomized after death.
No.
Earlier the same day, an 18-year-old waitress 15 miles away in Redding had been kidnapped and raped after a robbery. She was also sodomized, but she survived.
3 killings in the same day. The very next day, February 4th, Randy robbed a motel in Ashland, Oregon. The woman is unnamed, but she was raped and sodomized and survived. So he's going on a sodomy tour. Oh, that sounds like a band name. Sodomy tour.
Yeah.
The sodomy tour.
That would be a
I wouldn't go to that tour. I don't want tickets to that tour.
No.
5 days later, Randy went to a fabric store. He robbed it, and then he molested a clerk and a customer in the store, then left. 1 day later, February 12th, 1981, there were 4 robberies and 3 sexual assaults, again, all in 1 day.
This is insane.
Yeah. Like, the cops, how are they not getting him at this point? February 14th, 1981, Woodfield planned a Valentine's Day party at a Marriott hotel. He invited family and friends from college. Guess what? Nobody came. Oh my God, no one. The very same day that no one showed up to Randy's party, he went into Julie Ritz's house, and she was shot. Julie also knew Randy. He had worked as a bouncer and he used to let her in the bar repeatedly with her fake ID. So he had seen her license, and he knows where she lived. Her mother had even cautioned her daughter on the same day, saying to be careful because there was a dangerous person on the loose. He got to her house at 2 a.m., and around 4 a.m., he raped and killed her. In those 2 hours, Randy and Julie had some wine, and she had just started making a pot of coffee when he attacked her. So they were just hanging out, and she probably felt safe.
Yeah, this was somebody she knew.
The police were starting to narrow things down to Randy Woodfield by late February. But before he was arrested, he committed 3 more sexual assaults.
Investigation. Detectives started making a case log where Randy had happened to place calls with his calling card at payphones near the murder sites around the times the crimes were committed. Now, for you young listeners out there, before the invention of mobile phones and easy access to cellular phones, they actually had calling cards where you could use at payphones to call people with. Instead of putting 25 quarters in to make a long distance call, you could punch in
25 quarters?
You could just punch in a few numbers from a calling card and make a long distance call.
What year were you born again? 1919?
71. 1919. Do you remember the calling cards? Of course you do.
I never used a calling card, and I also never used a payphone.
So anyway, his phone bill was a trail from San Francisco to Washington, with his calls all corresponding to his crimes. Investigators said it was like a map of his crimes.
So this is old school detective work.
And this is before everybody in the world knew that all of your calls could be tracked.
They probably weren't all tracked back then. Probably had to get a warrant for real. Remember warrants? Remember before the Patriot Act?
Oh boy.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Don't get me started.
Don't. March 5th, 1981, Salem Police Department picked up Woodfield for questioning. And Lisa Garcia, one of the survivors who had been shot at close range, identified him in a lineup.
This lineup photo is crazy. It's a bunch of guys with porn stashes all in a row.
There'll be various photos on the Murderific.com website. During the interrogations, Randall would say, "I would never rape a girl. I didn't have to. They want me." Wow. Investigators did say he showed no emotion during questioning. His apartment was searched 2 days later, and they found a spent or fired .32 caliber casing inside a racquetball bag. They also found a roll of tape that had been used to bind some of his victims.
Finally, on March 7th, 1981, Randall Brent Woodfield's reign of terror would be done, as he was arrested, and more sexual assault and robbery victims would ID him. On March 16th, 1981, Randall was charged with murder, rape, sodomy, attempted kidnapping, armed robbery, and illegal possession of a firearm by an ex-convict. There were charges from Washington and Oregon. Randy was also charged with Hull's murder and Garcia's attempted murder and 2 counts of sodomy. Why even charge for sodomy? Like, you have murder charges, you're going to slap sodomy on there?
It's a tactic to make sure that even if he gets a life sentence that's reduced and eligible for parole, it's just going to add more years to the sentence. Hopefully to keep him in there longer.
Randy entered a plea of not guilty. In the summer of 1981, the trial began for the Hull murder and Garcia's attempted murder. The prosecutor was Dick Van Dyke's son. His name was Chris Van Dyke, and it was his first murder case. So he was the actor's son. Of course, most people probably don't know who Dick Van Dyke is.
I do.
You do, because you were born in
I'm
1900. Old. The prosecutor said the accused was, quote, an arrogant, cold, unemotional individual. Probably the coldest, most detached defendant I've ever seen. The prosecution had armloads of evidence and overwhelming evidence. Also, the prosecution had survivor testimony from Randy's rapes and murders attempt. The prosecution had Lisa Garcia testify against Randy, and it was pretty key to putting him away. She faced him and pointed out her attacker on the stand, recalling her horrible encounter with Randy 5 months earlier. And I probably don't have to say, but it must take a really, really strong person to face your rapist shooter in court and point him out.
Woodfield's defense. His defense, or what defense he had, was underwhelming. They went with the mistaken identity defense.
It wasn't his porn mustache. It was someone else's porn mustache.
Hey, early 80s, a lot of people had the porn mustaches. It could be anybody. But on the stand, Randy was soft-spoken. He never admitted his guilt. He did say that he owned a .32 caliber pistol, but when he realized felons were not allowed to own guns, he threw it in a river.
Makes sense.
Sentence. On June 26, 1981, after 3.5 hours of jury deliberation, Woodfield was found guilty on all counts and was sentenced to life plus 90 years.
For sodomy.
90 years for sodomy. And that's why they do it. Because life in American court could mean 10 years, 20 years. In October 1981, he had a second trial in Benton County for the attacks in a restaurant bathroom with more sodomy and weapons charges. He received an additional 35-year sentence. Woodfield is serving life in Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem. He is now 69 years old. Ironically, not even 1 mile away from I-5. In 1987, April, Woodfield tried to sue Ann Rule for her book, The I-5 Killer, for $12 million on the charge of libel. The book was a bestseller. The Federal Court of Oregon dismissed his suit in 1988.
Obviously, there are links to so many other crimes, rapes, and murders that he hasn't been charged with, most likely because he's already in prison and the states don't want to waste resources on someone who is already put away. One, for example, was Martha Morrison, who went missing in Oregon in September of 1975. Her remains were found a month later near Washington. She could be a victim of Woodfield or Ted Bundy. She was not identified until 2015. So yeah, that doesn't really fit his MO. He more like shot people and just left them there. He didn't really even bother to hide the bodies. He was kind of a disorganized killer, unlike Ted Bundy, who was very organized.
And actually, it's pretty common for courts to not try necessarily all the cases. If they believe the perpetrator is going to be locked up for life, they're not going to spend the money, because trials are expensive, to prosecute them. But if they did get any kind of word or sense that Randy would be released at any point in his life, they would go ahead and proceed with those cases.
In 1990, more victims were found. Woodfield could be responsible for 44 murders and as many as 60 unsolved sexual assaults. In 2001 and 2006, DNA testing linked Woodfield to 2 murders from 1980 and 1981. Wow.
Guaranteed it's a lot more than that, and that number's probably much higher.
In 2012, the Portland's Cold Case Unit found Woodfield responsible, linking him through DNA to Fix, Jarvis, Eckerd, Altig, and Reitz. Police already suspected his connection, but it was now confirmed with DNA evidence.
So this is nearly 20 years after the crime. The quality of DNA testing was now to a point where they could link him to those cases.
Woodfield has been questioned in prison with the hope he would confess to further unsolved crimes. A former Portland cold case investigator named Weatheroy said about Randy, quote, "I remember his hair was perfect, feathered and combed. He had a perfectly even tan, his nails were manicured, he was very charismatic, which made sense because he would lure victims and get them to let their guard down." Unquote. Woodfield to this day will not confess to anything more than what he was charged with. He has zero remorse, and if he won't acknowledge his behavior, then he obviously doesn't feel responsible or guilty about it. Of course, we are always left with the why question. There are no easy answers. I've learned from writing and researching these killers' stories. It's usually a combo of many, many things that end up becoming a trigger for a serial killer. But in the end, they make that choice to commit murder. So you could say that something happened to him in his younger years that made him connect sex and violence, but I don't really think that ever happened to him. He had a really good childhood. He was loved. He just couldn't take no for an answer and did whatever he wanted.
Maybe this is one of those cases where pornography would have been a better option for him.
I'm not going to touch that. Of course, you have your football excuse. Sometimes a violent sport might create a violent man, or maybe a few concussions caused his impulse control problems. But it seems like he was doing those things from a very early age, so that doesn't really fit either. In reality, he was showing troubling behavior from a very early age. And then, when football was gone, football was actually the only thing holding him back from becoming a monster because he had a purpose in life. And there's also the theory that his older sisters were very domineering and his mother was a perfectionist, and that is what made him resent women. And that seems pretty far-fetched to me also. He just wanted to. That's it. He just took what he wanted.
And if I had to guess, even if he had made the Packers, he eventually would have committed some crimes anyway.
Yes.
Some interesting facts. Randy's been married 3 times and divorced 2 times while in prison. In 2006, he joined MySpace.
Ooh.
Remember that?
Yes.
I wonder how young these viewers are. How many had a MySpace page?
Let us know. I had a MySpace page.
Yeah.
And I always had Christian Bale on it. And I always had emo music playing. Always. Do you remember yours? It was probably Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, most likely just a playlist of...
a picture of a guitar.
Guns N' Roses. That's it. Randy's MySpace profile said, "I spend the remainder of my days in prison because I committed a murder along with many other crimes. I once tried out for the Green Bay Packers. The only reason I didn't make it is because the skills I offer they didn't need at the time."
Oh my god, that's pathetic. That makes me actually feel bad for him that he's that pathetic.
That was traumatic. I'm sure it was traumatic. Anybody who's made it that close to that profession and never worked out, some people chase that dream and just can't deal with it.
So that's the end of the I-5 Killer podcast. Thank you for listening. And listen to the end of the podcast because we're going to give a shout out to all the patrons and some reviews. Thanks, guys. And thank you to Casey.
You're welcome.
My partner in crime.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
I want to thank my new patrons, Battle Axe Bunting, who is a Podbean donator, Cassie Reedus, True Crime Nana, Whitney Taylor, Joseph Johnson, Mary, Blue by Nature, and of course, there's the OGs, Greg Gallagher, Kaylee Lyons, who is the Murderific mascot, by the way, Nicolette Killman, Fried Wizard, Angela Clinkscales, Marion Rod, Casey Kucher, Danica Dutil, Ainsley Vanderbosch, and of course, Aaron from Devil We Know podcast, War Baby from Murderous Minors, and Uncovered the podcast. If you don't hear your name, it's because I record ahead of time, and you will hear on the next one or the one after that. Thank you so much for contributing to Murderific. You are helping me create content, and you're the producers, so thank you. And now for some iTunes reviews. One from Naptime Nancy Drew. Great show, great host, well-researched. What more do you want? Subscribe and binge today. And Lego Man 65. I listen to a ton of murder podcasts, and so far yours is by far the best. Don't stop the very well-placed language that you insert. It really helps to make the show. Love you and what you do to entertain me, Richard. Thank you, Richard. And EEC, as a Maine girl myself who also loves true crime, this is my new obsession. Love the content and especially Bernadette. Can't wait to keep listening. Thank you so much for your reviews, guys. Just so everyone knows, I do know that episode 23 didn't sound the best compared to the other podcasts, but there was some sort of technical issues recording that episode, so I am aware of that. So thank you for letting me know. Please subscribe to Murderific True Crime Podcast on iTunes or where you listen to podcasts. Please leave a rating and an honest review for Murderific True Crime Podcast. Support Murderific by going to Murderific on Patreon and contributing. It will help with website and production costs, and you'll also be helping a small business to continue. Your contribution, even $1 a month, will keep us going. The links to contribute are also on murderific.com. Follow me on social media, on Twitter as MurderificBPC or Instagram at Murderific Podcast. Thank you for listening to the Murderific True Crime Podcast. Until next time, we'll be executing podcasts one crime at a time.
If you're going to do something, do it well, and leave something with you. Leave a sign to let the world know that you were there. Have a good day.
Is your true crime podcast obsession giving you anxiety and nightmares? Are murder-centric thoughts leaving you on edge every time you're home alone? Holistic Hemp Healing's all-natural premium CBD products give me relief from my anxiety and have allowed me to sleep soundly without visions of unsolved murders waking me up hour after hour. You can try their CBD products for 20% off just being a Murderific podcast listener. They have tinctures, soaps, and edibles. www.holistichemp.life. Use promo code Murderific at checkout for 20% off all of their products.
Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Our listener support campaign continues. You can become one of our ongoing Patreon supporters for as little as $2 per month. But the focus of today's program is on one-time donations. And you can do that in a number of ways, either support.greatdetectives.net or using the Zelle app. Send to box13@greatdetectives.net. And I want to thank Kimber so much for using that option. Or you can mail in a donation to Adam Graham, P.O. Box 15913, Boise, Idaho 83715. And if you do send in a donation during our listener support campaign, there are a number of thank you gifts that we have available as an option. If you send in a donation of $50 or more and you live in the United States, I'll happily send you a signed copy of one of my books, including one of the Adventures of Powerhouse novels, or Slime Incorporated, my first mystery detective novel. And if you send in a donation of $100 or more, I'll happily send you one of the BBC's Poirot radio play collections. Collecting 7 or 8 Poirot adaptations starring John Moffat as Poirot. We have Poirot's Finest Cases and more of Poirot's Finest Cases, and we'll send you either one of those with a donation of $100 or more. A full list of available thank you gifts is at support.greatdetectives.net. Our Listener's Choice countdown continues. And now we are to number 6 in the standard division. There was a 2-way tie, so tied for 6 we have Dragnet. And this is an episode that I'll play for you today that originally aired May the 4th, 1950. And the title is The Big Badge.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. For 2 months, a depraved criminal has been at work in your city. Men and women have been robbed, brutally attacked. Your job, get him.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, March 7th. It was cloudy in Los Angeles. We were working the night watch out of homicide. My partner's Ben Romero, the boss is Thad Brown, chief of detectives. My name's Friday. I was on the way home from the office, and it was 2:25 a.m. when I got to Collis Avenue, number 4656.
Joseph? Is that you?
Yeah, Ma. Did I wake you?
Well, what time is it?
A little after 2.
Oh, you can't keep this up. You've got to have your rest.
Don't worry, I'm okay. You got any cold meat in the icebox?
There's some pressed ham, a few slices of bologna. Didn't you have any dinner?
A couple of hamburgers and a piece of pie. I got hungry again.
Well, I had some nice beef stew for dinner. There's some left in the icebox. I'll come down and warm it for you.
No, all I want's a sandwich, Ma. You go on back to sleep.
You can't live on pie and sandwiches and keep up your strength. Working all hours, first thing you know, you'll be getting sick. You need your food and you need your rest. Nobody cares when you're sick.
You didn't have to get up, Ma. All I want's a sandwich. I can fix it.
You better have a bowl full of stew. Here, it'll take a minute to warm it up. Nice new potatoes in it. Some of those onions you like, too. White Bermudas.
Okay, not too much now. I'll get the milk.
It's 2:30 in the morning. What kept you so late again?
Another stakeout. The same job.
Is that the murder in Highland Park?
No, Ma, the badge bandit. The one that poses as a policeman.
Oh, that one. You certainly ought to do something about him.
Yeah, well, we're trying to. We can't find him.
Now, there was a piece in the paper about it tonight. They say it's just terrible the way he beats up people and robs them.
Yeah.
Badge bandit. The way he treats women. Ought to be ashamed. They ought to put him away.
Yeah. You got some more rye bread?
Mm-hmm. Are you going to have tomorrow off, Joseph?
Thanks. No. The captain says we'll work straight through till we get the guy.
Oh. I thought you were going to have tomorrow off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you ought to tell the captain. You need your rest. You can't go on like this working all hours. You'll be coming down sick one of these days.
Mm-hmm. 15 robberies, 15 assaults, all in 2 months. Somebody's got to stop him. Stew ready?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, can't they warn the people? They wouldn't be getting robbed and beaten up if they weren't parked in those lonely places. Spooning, so silly.
Yeah. I'm afraid we can't do anything about that, Ma. It's a public place. We've got a right to park there. Well.
Yeah, I suppose. Let me have your plate.
Okay, here. No, hold it. That's fine.
Another spoonful. You can't work if you don't eat.
Okay. That's good stuff.
Yeah, sure it is. Butcher down at ShopRite's nice. His stewing beef's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Ben work late with you?
Yeah, his wife's sore, too. He hasn't been home much since we started on this. It's a tough one.
Oh, my. Well, times certainly have changed since I was a girl. All this robbing, beating up. Crazy people.
Yeah. Any mail today?
No, there's a couple of bills.
Well, you set the alarm. I got to check back in at 8 in the morning.
8 o'clock? Why so early?
Badge Bandit got 2 more victims tonight. They're college kids. Oh. Doctor said he didn't think we should talk to him tonight, so we'll have to see him tomorrow morning at the hospital.
Were they badly injured?
Pretty bad. The boy took a terrible beating. The girl was attacked, same as the others.
My.
Well, it's very good, Ma. I better get to bed.
Yes, well, your face looks so thin. You need all the rest you can get.
I'll get it.
Now, who can that be? It's almost 3 in the morning.
Hello?
This is Lorman down Homicide, Joe. Sorry to bother you.
Yeah, Lorman. What is it?
Captain wants you and Romero to meet him at Hollywood and Laurel right away.
What's the matter now?
Attack and hold up in Laurel Canyon 20 minutes ago.
Yeah?
Got the area blocked off. Figure they got the man trapped.
The victims get a look at the guy?
Same description, the Badge Bandit.
I left the house, went over and picked up Ben. We drove out to the edge of the Santa Monica Mountains where Hollywood Boulevard ends and Laurel Canyon begins. We headed back into the canyon to the blockaded area. Captain Steed from Homicide was there waiting for us.
Hi, Skip.
Hiya, just a minute. Taylor, call communications again. Have them tell the men out on Ventura to start moving in.
Right, Captain.
Sorry to call you back. Couldn't be helped.
Okay. How's it shaping
Control
up?
3,
Wait a
Commander of
minute.
Search Detail in vicinity of Laurel Canyon. Unit 62K reports that they are at Mulholland Drive and Oakstone Avenue. Nothing further to report.
Okay,
no
what did you say,
sign of
Joe?
suspect.
So how's it shaping up?
Well, here's a sketch of the area. Covers just about all the Laurel Canyon district.
Well?
Badge Bandit got his victims near the top of this hill here.
Mm-hmm.
Old man in the neighborhood heard a woman scream and phoned in.
How sure are we the guy didn't get away?
Well, the man who called in said the bandit had trouble starting his car. Finally left it and took off into the brush. He was headed west down this road here.
Captain, I just had a call from communications. The crew from Leighton Prince are on their way.
All right, any report from the detail up on Canyon Road?
Nothing yet. I'll stand by the radio.
Okay.
How much area we got to cover?
From the mouth of the canyon here, all the way back to Ventura Boulevard. On the west here, from Lookout Mountain Avenue over to Crestview Drive on the east.
How much have we got to go on?
Crowley talked to the victims for a minute before they took them to Georgia Street.
Yeah?
The guy's description's the same. Heavy set, blonde hair, chubby face, horn-rimmed glasses.
Mm-hmm. Well, if he's on foot, there's plenty of underbrush around here to hide in.
Just a minute, I want to get this call in first. Taylor, have communications contact 72K. Tell them to hold their line stationary.
Yeah.
We'll have the others close in from the west and the north.
Right.
You two better get up on Groveland Drive. Line's pretty thin up there. Olson will use the help.
Is that the area where you abandoned the car?
Yeah. I want you to cover all the houses in that area. Check with everybody you can find in the neighborhood. They may be able to help. If they don't answer, find out why.
Okay.
I'll be making the rounds in another 10 minutes. Check with you then.
All right, let's go,
Oh,
Joe.
one more thing.
Yes, sir?
I'll tell you what I told the rest of the men. This guy's in a corner and he's got a gun. There's only one way out for him.
Yeah?
Make sure it's not you.
3:45 a.m. Ben and I drove up to Groveland Drive and joined the search. We started our house-to-house canvass of the neighborhood where the suspect had abandoned his car. None of the residents had any further information to give us. 4 a.m. We kept on checking.
23 hours. It's a long shift.
Yeah. I could use some sleep.
Wife of mine is boiling mad. She's even mad at the kid.
Yeah? What's the trouble?
Oh, aunt of hers sent down some flower bulbs from Oregon yesterday, gladiola bulb.
Yeah.
Kid was playing with a little girl next door yesterday, and they found a box of flower bulbs. They put the mess of them in a pot of water and boiled them on the stove.
What'd they do that for?
Oh, no.
There's another house up ahead. We better check it.
Yeah.
We ought to get some streetlights up here.
Yeah. That's nice work, waking people up in the middle of the night.
I don't like it any more than they do.
Wish we could make them blaze fire. Nice neighborhood up here. I wonder what the price is on these lots.
Well, it shouldn't be too high. They say real estate's coming down.
Yeah, what is it?
Police officers. Sorry to disturb you. We'd like to talk to you a minute.
Oh, all right. Let me get the door open. What's been going on in the neighborhood tonight? Some kind of trouble? Cars racing up and down the hill? What's the trouble?
Have you noticed any strangers in the neighborhood last hour?
No, I just got to bed 20 minutes ago. I work out at Paramount. We're shooting nights. What's all the commotion anyway?
We're looking for a suspect. He's supposed to be around this area.
Well, I haven't seen anybody. I thought I heard somebody out by the garage a few minutes ago. Went out and looked around, but I didn't see anything.
Did you check to see if your car is still in the garage?
No, I left it in the driveway.
No, sir. There's no car in your driveway.
Sure there is. Let me show you. Hey, it's gone.
Can we use your phone?
Yeah. Yeah, but I saw it just a few minutes ago. The car was right there in the driveway. You think that guy took my car?
Yes, sir. It's a pretty good bet. You got your license number handy there?
I don't remember it. I got it on a card in my wallet.
Give me communication.
Can you give us a description of your car?
It's a Plymouth sedan, black, two-door sedan with...
Search detail, Laurel Canyon. I got some new information for all units in the detail.
Here's the license number.
Thank you. Will you broadcast this information to all units in the search detail?
What was the make and model of your car?
46 black Plymouth, a two-door sedan.
1946 black Plymouth, two-door sedan, license number, let me see. 7 X-ray 2569. This car's just been stolen from 10211 Groveland Drive.
Any identifying marks on the car?
Well, I left my keys in it.
No, sir. I mean, any special markings on the car? Maybe a dent in one of the fenders?
Well,
Here, George, hold on, we're getting it.
The right headlight went out on me last night. I haven't had it fixed yet.
The right headlight on the car is out. Notify all units in the search detail that we believe suspect is now in possession of this car. Right, thank you.
Let's go.
It must have happened in the last 15 minutes. I heard that noise and I went out to check. The car was there then.
Well, here's our card. We'll be checking with you later.
Yeah, I sure hope you find it. I don't know how I can get to work tomorrow without my car.
Yeah, we'll notify you.
Yeah, gee, I sure hope you find it.
Thanks for your help. Come on, Ben.
2569. Repeat, 7 X-ray 2569. Car has just been stolen from 10211 Groveland Drive. The right headlight is out.
Oh, we got it.
Believed suspect is now in possession of this car, KMA 367.
I don't think you could have gotten that car through the blockade yet, you. Better start searching the side roads, huh?
Yeah. There's one. Leading off to the left, up ahead.
Okay, let's try it. Wait a minute. There's a car coming down the hill toward us.
Sure is making time. Joe, only one headlight on the car.
It's coming right at us. Turn around, quick. There's no room. Get over to the inside.
I can't. It's too late.
Ben, turn.
Hang on. We're going over.
Attention all units. Special attention all units in search detail in the vicinity of Laurel Canyon. 80K reports theft
Ben?
of a 1946
You all right?
Plymouth two-door sedan.
Ben.
License in the 5 column.
An ambulance was called, and Ben and I were taken to Georgia Street Receiving Hospital. There I received emergency treatment for multiple cuts and bruises and a sprained left shoulder. Ben didn't do so well. He had a possible concussion, 2 broken ribs, and half a dozen severe cuts about the face and arms. We were then taken to the P&F ward. The next afternoon, we had a visit from Captain Steed and Chief of Detectives Thad Brown.
Friday, how you feeling?
Oh, pretty good, Chief.
You saw Romero across the hall. You came out better than he did.
Yeah, that's what I hear. You resting any?
Oh, much better. No danger involved. Needs rest, that's about all.
How long?
Well, he'll be here 2 weeks, according to the doctor. What about you?
Couple of days.
Too bad, Joe.
Badge bandit?
Yeah. Looks like you two got banged up for nothing.
Oh?
After he rammed your car, he ditched the black Plymouth, and then we figure he hit with the underbrush.
Yeah?
Somehow, while we were hauling you and Ben out of that wreck, he slipped through the line.
Any fingerprints on the car?
None we could use.
It's rotten luck. I guess it was his night, huh?
We're getting more men from Metro Division to help out. And we're doubling the number of decoys around the city.
Policewomen, huh?
And we'll have each of them planted in a parked car along with an officer in every area the badge bandit's been working. All he has to do is grab at the bait once.
Yeah, if he goes for it.
He'll have plenty of time to choose. We work the same setup every night till we reach him.
It's a big operation. Might have to run it for weeks unless he quits.
Well, there's only one way a guy like that ever quits. When we stop him.
Saturday, March 10th at 2 p.m. I was released from the P&F ward and went home. Ben stayed on at the hospital. He had at least another 10 days to go before release. Sunday, I spent at home. Monday afternoon, I checked back in at the office, and Captain Steed put me on decoy duty for that week, along with policewoman Dorothy River. We were assigned to cover an isolated parking area near Mulholland Drive and Beverly Glen. It was a nice view, but the duty was slow. No sign of the badge bandit. Policewoman River and I waited it out from late evening to early morning, from Monday through Thursday. Friday night came. Same thing. We waited.
How's Ben? You see him today?
Yeah, he's doing fine. Be out next week.
Grouchy, I guess.
Oh, sure.
You want a cigarette?
Thank you.
You can sure tell it's Friday night.
Yeah.
Thanks. college kids are out in the forest.
Mm-hmm. What time you got?
1:45. Long nights.
Yeah. Slow.
And cold.
Yeah, are you?
Just a little. It's chilly up here in the early morning. What's that?
Car full of kids just pulling out.
Where the car's going to?
Yeah. We're the only ones left.
Stakeout's got on your nerves.
So look, if you're cold, you can have my coat. It doesn't bother me.
No, it's all right, Joe. Thanks. It's a beautiful view from up here, isn't it? All the lights.
Yeah.
You like to dance, Joe?
What?
I said, do you like to dance?
Oh, once in a while, I guess. I'm not too good. Why?
Well, our club's having its big annual dance 2 weeks from Saturday.
Yeah?
Might get a kick out of it. It's formal.
That leaves me out. I don't own a tux.
Oh, you could rent one. It'd be fun.
No, I'm afraid I don't look good in a tux.
I never met a man who thought he did. Why don't you try it?
I might be working.
Well, I mean, if you're not working, why don't you come?
You going?
Well, I was planning on it.
Got a date?
Yeah, I have hopes.
There's a car pulling in. See? Yeah, parked over in back of us.
I can only make out one person in the car.
Yeah, looks like a man. I can't be sure. All right, come on over closer. We might as well look the part, huh?
All right.
He's getting out of the car.
Is he coming this way?
Walking over to the side of the road. He's got a flashlight. Looking around.
He's built like the badge bandit. Short, heavy set.
Yeah, he's turning around. He's got his flashlight on us.
He's coming up on your side of the car.
All right, take it easy. You know what to do.
Come on, out of that car. Police officer.
All right, hold on.
Got a gun, Joe?
Yeah.
Come on, I said out of the car, both of you.
All right. All right, drop the gun. Drop it.
That's him.
Yeah.
Now I'll get the cuffs on him.
Thanks. I didn't think I hit him that hard.
You didn't, I did.
Policewoman Dorothy River and I took the suspect to Hollywood Division, where he was booked on suspicion of robbery. He gave his name as Charles Leon Kirby, age 46. Monday, March 19th, Ben was released from the hospital and checked back in for work. A special show-up was held at which 10 of the 17 victims definitely identified Kirby as the badge bandit. The suspect had finally been apprehended. Now we started the slow process of formally charging the man and presenting our evidence against him to bring him to trial. 10 a.m., Ben and I went across the street to the 6th floor of the Hall of Justice to present our case against Kirby and to obtain a formal complaint against him. We met with Deputy District Attorney Broker.
When'd you get out of the hospital, Ben?
This morning. Sure got sick of that place.
Heard about your accident. That guy sure gave you enough trouble, didn't he?
Yeah, he's still giving us trouble.
How's that?
He got in a tangle with another prisoner out in the Hollywood Division.
Yeah?
The other prisoner gave Kirby a pretty bad going over. Cut him up and broke his left forearm. They're moving him in an ambulance from Hollywood to the prison ward at the General Hospital.
When did this happen?
This morning. I think they're moving him downtown now.
Tough one. Now, how about your reports on Kirby? Are they all in order?
Well, here's a summary report. Alleges 10 positive identifications containing 10 counts for robbery and 10 counts of forcible rape.
All right.
Here are 7 other crime reports. Only partial identification on these.
Okay. What do you got for corroborating evidence against him?
Oh, we went through Kirby's apartment. Found at least a dozen pieces of property that he took from his victims. Mostly watches and jewelry. The victims identified every piece we found.
Okay, let me get the details down here. No. Excuse me a minute.
Sure.
Broker speaking. Yes, a minute. You, Friday.
Thank you. Friday. When? Yeah, right away. Well, that does it.
What's the matter?
Kirby, he just broke out of that ambulance.
You are listening to Dragnet, the case history of a police investigation presented in the public interest.
As soon as word of Kirby's escape came through, the information was broadcast to all points. All available cruiser cars and men were rushed to the escape area, and a door-to-door canvass got underway. All of the men were given mug shots of Kirby together with his description. 11 a.m., Ben and I got back to the office. We found a message from Captain Steed to meet him in the chief of detective's office.
No man in that area until further notice. Check the bus depots and the Union Station. Right.
What's the story, Chief?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
Where'd he make the break?
Near 4th and Main. Couldn't have picked a better spot.
The ambulance had just crossed 3rd and Main when Kirby slugged the guard. The driver was too busy dodging traffic to notice what was going on in back.
That's a lousy break.
Kirby jumped out of the back end of the ambulance and disappeared in the crowd. No sign of him since.
Well, that's fine. Takes us almost 3 months to reach the guy, and he breaks away on a cheap fluke like that.
Well, he doesn't have many friends in town. He's only got one we know of.
Yeah?
A brother. Kirby stays with him pretty often from what we could gather. The brother lives in a rooming house down on Alameda.
Anybody checked that yet?
We've got it staked out.
And the brother works at a box factory in the south end of town. That's covered, too.
And he's not going far with a broken arm.
What have you got?
Pawn shop hold-up, 6th Street, happened a few minutes ago.
Yeah?
Here's the description of the hold-up, man.
Stocky build, blonde hair, horn-rimmed glasses, chubby face.
You were wrong about that broken arm. Come on. 11:20 a.m. Ben and I pulled up at the East Asia pawn shop on 6th Street. Inside, we found the proprietor, Morris Brubaker, lying propped up against one of the showcases. He was an elderly man, and his face and head showed the marks of a savage beating. His wounds were hemorrhaging badly, and ambulance attendants were giving him first aid. We showed him Charles Kirby's mugshot.
That's the man. I wouldn't make a mistake, that's him.
Was he alone, Mr. Brubaker?
Yes, by himself. He has to look at a watch, and when I turned to get it, he kicked me. I fell against the showcase and cut myself. He pulled me in the back room. I didn't even know him. He kept beating me.
Easy, Mr. Brubaker. Let me get this compress on. How much did he get away with, do you know?
I'm not sure. Blue suit, blue overcoat, wraparound, and navy blue, both. He kept hitting me.
All right, sir, just take it easy. They'll have you out of here in a minute.
He kept hitting me like a crazy man.
This is antiseptic. Might sting a little. Okay.
What else did he take, Mr. Brubaker? Can you remember?
Yes, from the cash register, he took money.
How much?
$13, $14, I can't be sure.
When he left your store, did you see which way he was going?
No, he dragged me in the back room. He locked me in.
Ready to move now, Sergeant? Okay.
I don't know. I saw him going through the shelves there in the back of the counter. I don't know.
What'd you keep there?
My account books and my gun, a box of shells, too.
You want to take a look, Ben?
Well,
my head.
Yes, sir. Just take it easy. It's only going to be a minute now.
the account books are still there.
Yeah?
He got the gun.
4 p.m. Kirby, alias the Badge Bandit, was still at large. As far as we were concerned, the case was almost back to where it started from 11 weeks before. The suspect was still loose. He was well armed, was still free to rob, assault, or murder. We had two big advantages. Kirby's possible broken arm, which would need medical attention, and secondly, the lead to Kirby's brother. At 5:30 p.m., we had a report that the suspect was seen purchasing a ticket at a theater box office out on Hollywood Boulevard. We ran it down. It didn't pay off. At 6:15, a taxi driver thought he spotted Kirby boarding an outbound streetcar at Figueroa and Pico. Was checked out. No results. At 7 o'clock, Ben and I got something to eat at a drive-in, and we relieved the men on stakeout at the rooming house on Alameda Street where Kirby's brother was staying. 10 p.m. Midnight. No sign of Kirby. We waited. At 3 a.m., Hanson and Cummings of Homicide relieved us, and Ben drove me home. It was 3:45 when he dropped me off at Collis Avenue, number 4656.
Joseph, that you?
Yeah, Ma, I didn't mean to wake you.
What time is it?
Almost 4.
These late hours, you've got to get your rest, Joseph.
We'll be all right, Ma. Got something to eat in the icebox?
There's a little cold meat and some cheese in the cupboard.
Just want a sandwich. You go on back to sleep.
I had some nice meatballs and spaghetti for dinner. I can warm some for you. My, I'm sandwiches working all hours. You just get sick, Joseph, and you'll see nobody cares about you when you're sick.
I wish you wouldn't get up, Ma. I can fix something.
Well, warm up the meatballs and spaghetti. You need something substantial.
I get it.
4 a.m. I hope it's not that office calling again.
Hello?
Lorman down Homicide.
Yeah, Lorman.
Thought you'd like to know they just got Kirby.
Where?
At his brother's place about 15 minutes ago. Hanson and Cummings grabbed him.
Any trouble?
No, grabbed him before he got to his gun. He just locked him up. Thought you'd like to know.
Yeah. Thanks, Lorman.
Night.
All right.
Well, what was it, Joseph?
The office, Ma. They got Kirby, the badge bandit.
Oh, did they? Well, that's nice. Maybe you'll have some time off now.
Yeah. Never fails, does it? You work on a case for 3 months. Leave it for 30 minutes and it's all over.
The food's warm. Is there anything else you want?
No, that's fine, Ma. You go on to bed.
Well, all right, Joseph. Now, don't stay up too long.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, Ma.
Yes, Joseph?
Have I still got that old tuxedo around?
The story you have just heard was true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
On June 27th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 87, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. Charles Leon Kirby, alias the Badge Bandit, was tried and convicted in Superior Court on several counts of armed robbery, rape, and assault with intent to commit murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. After serving 1 year in the state penitentiary, he was judged insane and committed to the state mental hospital at Mendocino. After 2 months there, he escaped. Charles Kirby, alias the Badge Bandit, is still at large. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice for Dragnet comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.A. Wharton.
This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Hi, this is Andrew from OTRWesterns.com. I wanted to invite you to come take a look at our site where we put out podcasts of old-time radio westerns. Check us out at OTRWesterns.com. You're listening to The Great Detectives of Old-Time Radio with Adam Graham. Now let's get back into the show.
Welcome back. Well, such a memorable episode, and so much to remember, of course.